All right, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night to you whenever it is you tune in. Hope all is going well. I am here at the top left of your screen, and beneath me will be.
Hi, it's Rip Cliff. Good to see everybody, and I hope I'm glad you're tuning in.
Yeah, glad to have everyone back here. Beneath him, we have.
Is it
Travis.
me? I'm like, sure I wasn't tripping. Okay.
Beneath
Jarvis.
Ripcliffe, we have. There we go.
I'm sorry. Jarvis Williams. What's going on, everybody?
And then beneath him, we have.
The one and only Javen Ben Frank, man. What's going on, man? I'm out here with Noah, Cliff, and Jarvis trying to give y'all some great insight today, man. Good to have everybody watching the show.
Definitely.
Yes, indeed. And then we also have some other people tuning in. We have Robert Ponder. We have Bubba Gump that just jumped in. And as you can tell, this is only on ours, only on my channel. I wasn't able to put it on the other AFN kind of sites and stuff because, well, we have the other crew that's taking over those locations. So I'm gonna give them their shine as well. What we have here that's taking up the majority of the screen though is actually Ripcliffe's uh, prediction of the entire 53-man roster. He sent this before we even started the previous stream. So now I wanted to kind of dig into it, kind of get his thoughts on that. And so how he did is that he put 5 corners at the start in comparison to how many corners we have on our team right now. That would be one, two, three, four. Wait, no, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. We have 7 declared cornerbacks on their team. So obviously AJ is going to make it. Casey's going to make it. Isaiah Oliver is currently listed on the IR, but he is going to make it. D. Alford is going to make it as well. Tease Tabor, I do not.
He made
Well,
this
I kind
practice
of see
squad.
him
You're a
listed as
practice
a.
squad.
Practice.
Yeah,
Practice
I see
squad.
him listed as a safety too.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
But
know
yeah,
if this depth chart for the Falcons has been updated.
yeah. He,
If
he was
not, then
listed
I'm
as
not going to pay
a
attention to that anymore.
yeah. He was listed as like I think he was listed as a DB at first. So it's whatever. The DB's kind of interchangeable, especially at the bottom of that depth chart. So.
Yeah,
Um,
moving on to the safeties: Richard Grant, Jalen Hawkins, Eric Harris, Dean Marlowe. Obviously, that was going to be the case with those four. So mainstays there. We have inside linebacker Troy Anderson, Ershawn Evans, Deion Jones, Michael Walker, Nate Landman. Landman was kind of a surprise moving, kind of thinking back, but
right
turned out
now
for the
that
better.
now that we got Dion to the IR, we got Kwiatkowski or Kiwi, as I'm going to start calling him.
Yeah,
Back
Kiwi,
on there.
Kawasaki, Mike Wazowski. I don't care what you want to call him.
Yeah. So yeah,
Outside linebacker Lorenzo, yeah. AK, yeah. Malone, yeah. Ogundeji, yeah. They're all going to be here.
and then we had
Uh,
Bell. That was a surprise.
Yeah, Quentin Bell. I think you had him on your practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Tyler Algier, Cordell Patterson, Avery Williams, Quadri Allison. Is he no
Yeah,
longer here?
that one was wrong, but
Jeez.
yeah, you can't be all right. That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Over
think that I
to
think Dallas
Dallas.
is gonna. I think Dallas is gonna try to embarrass us with Quadri Olin. So they're gonna be like the game that we. I think we do we play them again this year?
And
I don't think so.
since
Okay.
this was this was my hottest take, I kind of want to touch on that before we move on.
Okay.
So I obviously, as you guys can see, I don't have Damian Williams, who obviously made the roster. The way I was looking at it, uh, I mean, I know, and see, I didn't never say that he wasn't. I just the indications that because he was older. One
Mhm.
in the preseason, he started out as starting, but then they kind of went away from him. He only had 5 carries the entire preseason, and I didn't see any injuries, which I know he was a starter or whatever, so that's probably what ended up being. But my thinking was, we have other stars. We have guys like Kyle Pitts. He's getting more than 5 snaps, um, things like that. So it was just a little bit of like he was like a low end free agent that we signed. He was, he wasn't, he I obviously know he can play. I just with the crowded running back room we had, they were giving guys like Quadri more touches. So I was like, thinking in my head that was kind of where their head was at. And I do have Damon Williams on our practice squad. I did think he was going to be on the team, but I just thought, obviously, I was wrong. But that
Yeah.
was my
Him
thought.
and Huntley you actually had on there.
Yes, yeah, Huntley is on my practice squad as well. So, and that was a tough decision. That was the toughest decision because there's so many running backs that we had that I could logically see on this roster, and I went with Quadre just because he kind of showed me throughout the entire preseason he had, the better one. I think they planned on bringing him back. They definitely did, but of course, the Dallas Cowboys scooped him up. So, is what it is.
Yeah, moving on to the quarterbacks. Ritter, Mariota, yeah. Felipe listed at quarterback 3. Now, people can try to be like, well, hey, isn't he listed as a tight end? Well, you have the extra spot for a quarterback. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to keep him there.
Right. I
And
mean,
that's what gives him the opportunity to have 3 tight end spots, which he gave Pitts, Ferkser, and Hesse.
yes, and Ferkser was the surprise of the century. I mean,
Yeah,
he's even on
yeah.
our, which we'll touch on the roster manipulation that they did, but there was a reason they did that. But he's still on the practice squad, so that's still kind of confusing to me. But um, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, and who else? We kept John Fitzpatrick, who's now on our IR now. So,
Right.
um, but
And moving on to your offensive lineman, Lindstrom, yes, understandable. Drew Dahlman, understandable. Jalen Mayfield, controversial but ultimately understandable. Elijah Wilkinson, understandable. Jake Matthews is obvious. Caleb McGarry is going to get more obvious. Hennessy is understandable. Effetti, yeah. Gossett was, I don't think he
he
was
was
made
cut,
it
but
back, right?
he did make it back.
He was
Oh,
brought
he
Yeah,
did.
back today.
he made today.
That one
So
should
we
be his
actually
spot.
have we actually have 10 offensive linemen technically on the roster on the main roster now because which Jalen Mayfield's on IR, so it's still 9.
Gotcha.
But I did not expect us to trade for how do you say his name?
I think we got him off waivers.
Um, oh yeah, we got
Yeah,
him off waivers. Yeah, Chuma. I'll just say Chuma. Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
don't know his name.
I'm glad we picked him up because he's definitely a good depth piece.
He had some
That
tools
we,
that we could definitely work with. Yeah.
yeah. I really like it now that we got Jermaine Ifedi and him. Like I feel pretty good that if one of our tackles get injured, that we can kind of make do.
Manage it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your wide receivers, you had 6 of them. Drake London, Amir Bird, Ryan Edwards, Kadero Hodge, Olamide Zacchaeus. Cameron Batson was your last
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that one was hard because I had Bernie in, but my reasoning for putting Batson over Bernie was simply special teams because I saw more on special teams from Batson. And when you're talking about like the bottom half of the roster, I really weigh that pretty heavily, and it usually comes out pretty well because like you're talking about your sixth receiver. So he's probably not going to get a whole lot of time on offense, but he is going to probably be special teams, uh, you know, heavy. So, but I'm glad Bernie made it. I mean, if I had to pick as far as like receiver, it would be Bernie because he was definitely better than Batson. But Batson
Right.
was decent at receiver, and he had that special teams edge there. So that's why I chose to go the way I did. But obviously I'm not inside their head, and I'm not at practice every day. So I'm glad with how it turned out.
And to
Yeah.
be
Special
honest with
teams.
you, I seen a scenario where he could have made it, but maybe we cut Avery and he kind of assumed that role. But I didn't see a scenario where both of them made it.
Right.
Yeah, Avery performed way too well as a returner last year, and another to
Yeah,
kind
he
of
did.
Yeah,
sacrifice that.
he was what, number 1 or 2 or something like that?
Statistically,
Returning.
yeah. To me,
Mhm.
to be honest, it didn't really pass my eye test, but statistically, he was the best returner in the league last year as far as yards per return.
Yeah, there was a couple more that he should have had, but it's like untimely timeout or penalties rather.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
and here's the thing about Avery. He is a consistent returner. So he's not
Right.
he's not like a Devin Hester or something like that, or explosive or anything. But dude, he will make the play. He will catch the because people don't understand, like, it is very difficult to return a punt. Like, it's not, or a kick or whatever, like, it's not cut and dry. Like, that takes some skill. Because, I mean, you got to think how high that ball is coming up in the air, and then it's coming down. You got to gauge where it's going to come from the trajectory and make a good catch while people are trying to take your head off.
Yeah,
So
you have people coming at you full speed.
yeah, so I mean, just imagine that. So if you got a guy that can field those cleanly and get you a couple of yards, know when to fair catch, when not to fair catch, when to let the ball go, like, that is that's why Weems made everyone complained about Weems returning kicks for years.
I did for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and he would make me mad. He called fair catches way too often. I will say that.
He did.
But as far as fielding
he did not turn that ball over though.
Yeah, and that is the key. That's the key. So yeah, so I mean, Avery might not be like the most flashy guy, but he's gonna be consistent, and we don't have to worry about if he's back there that we're gonna have a muff punt.
The day he muff a punt, I'm gonna call Alan Ross and be like, Alan, you come on back. I know you old, but come on back.
My boy right there. Hey, y'all my boy.
All right, so moving on to your last position group, you had D lineman, you had Grady, TQ, you had Rush. These names were kind of talking points for a while. Abdullah Anderson, glad we brought him back. Marlon Davidson, other people might not be glad that we brought him back. Derek Tangelo, he's kind of in between for some people, but ultimately, I think it shaped out relatively well considering the comparison.
Yeah, and of course,
bottom seven.
Well, the special teams. I mean, we can touch on that real quick. Brad Pinion, Koo, and Liam. McCullough was the only one that really had any. I think we had another long snapper, but it was
Bo Brinkley, but then I think he got injured or something. And then same with Brad Pinion. Like, we could always bring back Seth Vernon at any given time. I'm not sure why he got like why his name was listed first in the chopping block, but we'll see how the punting goes.
He outkicked his coverage a lot, Noah. So Vernon is one of the things is when they were talking about in practice, and they was like he's outkicking his coverage, and that causes a problem when you're trying to get down there and cover a punt. He got great hang time, he got great distance, but most of the time he outkicked his coverage.
Yeah.
No, see, this is why we have the people that we do in here.
And I ain't gonna lie, that does mean a lot too, because that's an easy return. If you boot it and them boys ain't down there, that's a lot of space to operate.
Yeah, that's a very underrated. Hang time is everything when it comes to punts. I mean, distance obviously matters, but if you don't got hang time, you would rather have more hang time than distance, just because it gives you guys more time to get down there. And then, of course, at the bottom of it, I had the bottom seven, which is basically, if people don't know, like, we only dress 46 players each game. So what I tried to do was put a bottom seven. So one, it lets you know, like, who, if we're going to make moves, who I would think would be the first to go. And then obviously who's going to be dressing, which kind of fluctuates week to week, but just kind of give you an idea there. And then of course this is my practice squad that he's got pulled up here. I think John Rain, didn't he get waived like entirely? I think he got hurt or something.
Yeah, he got waived. Injury.
Yeah. So
I'm so sad about Leroy Watson. I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
he went injured on this.
Yeah,
I think that was more Arthur Smith. That was more Arthur Smith on calling, because if you look at it a good bit, he was wearing into Leroy on the sideline with those holding calls. He did not like that from Leroy.
Oh, he went the last game?
the last game.
Oh wow,
He
I
was.
didn't see no holding call. He was one of the better on PFF. He was one of the better graded players on PFF too. I thought he played a pretty flawless game that last
Oh,
game. I missed that.
but offensive getting
Yeah,
everybody business.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Leroy, I liked him, especially that Jaguars game. He was
He did
like the
real well.
best. He was the best lineman we had that game,
Yep.
as far as that
To
goes.
me,
So
Someone that played next to him did not have that equal good of a game, and that was Justin Schaefer, unfortunately.
I
Dude,
don't
from
think
the
he was
first
terrible though. I seen him
dude,
make some good
from the
blocks.
first play, he ran into Leroy. The very first play, the one that Desmond Ritter threw the interception,
Oh
that's what
yeah.
got that defender to go right in his face and to him to cause that errant throw.
he,
Now, in retrospect, you probably don't make that throw, or you probably have to scramble first and get out of the pocket, kind of get a few
hmm
yards that way. But yeah, that was the whole reason. Like he literally just like got out of his stance and then bumped into Leroy, which
hmm
then had the shading go from the defensive lineman. He's like, oh, okay, well, no one's blocking me, so let me just go right in front of the quarterback.
hmm
yeah. Here's the thing
So,
on Schaefer. Like,
yeah,
I like a little bit of what I see. He is extremely raw. Um, I don't know. You guys might be Georgia fans. Was he a senior with Georgia? Is that why he left, or did he leave early? Because if he left early, like that was not probably not the best move he could
I
have made.
think he was a senior because he didn't start the first, I guess, 2 years at Georgia. I'm not a Georgia fan, but I'm an LSU SEC, so I don't remember seeing him for the first 2 years. I believe he didn't come in and started playing good until his junior season.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got the key word here, potential. I don't think he's ever going to be like a starter for you. He could be like
hmm
a depth piece in a year or two. That's what's really good about this expanded practice squad, because you can take chances on guys like that. Because when it was like six guys, you really had to narrow it down. Now you can give a lot of guys that showed maybe a little bit, or you
hmm
like some aspects of their game, you can really give them a chance. Whereas like when it was six guys, it was like these guys you really got to hit on these guys, because you don't go. That's why I was talking before the stream, and we'll go into the IR designations and how that is kind of roster manipulation. It basically, we've got a mini farm system in the NFL now
hmm
when it comes to your practice squad, and how you can manipulate the roster to get extra spots, and give guys time to really kind of develop. You kind of have like a second preseason almost for those guys. So, and we'll go into that a little bit further here in a little bit, but we
Yeah.
can finish out this list here. Um,
yeah, because it
Hey,
was like,
hey, no, oh sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Hey Noah. Hey, so I know we don't really watch a whole lot of uh, regular media things on sports when it comes to football because of how they really disrespect us as a fan base, right? But there's two people on NFL Network that I do truly listen to that I like a lot. One more than the other, but I still listen to both of them, and that's Steve Mariucci and that's Baldinger. I like
Right,
listening to both of those guys. And what Steve Mariucci said made sense for every franchise, every all 32 teams in the NFL. He says when he was a coach back in the days, it wasn't nothing to get an offensive lineman and build him up and give him that time to develop. Nowadays, offensive linemen don't have that time to develop because everything is at a fast pace where they don't have time to break it down Barney style like they used to back then, and that's why you start to see offensive linemen become a what they call a revolving door throughout the league
yeah,
because
I mean, you could really
Mhm,
say that about any position. I mean, people are about the here and now, and I really don't think, like, I think people need to like realize, like, with Jalen Mayfield, right?
mhm,
Uh, I'm not impressed with him,
mhm,
as far as that goes. But I also understand that's a very difficult position to play.
mhm,
So while I if there is a better option that you can find, of course I'm okay with moving on from him. But what people have to realize is like offensive line, as league wide, is trash.
mhm,
Like if you look at the offense, especially after your first, you might have teams that have a good first string, like
mhm.
first front line, but you go beyond that, you're really I mean, look at the Cowboys. I mean, Tyron Smith goes down, and they're like, our offensive line is screwed. Like
Yes.
at first, they were hopping, with Trey Smith, or not Trey Smith, Tyler Smith,
Mhm.
um, uh, there at guard. They were feeling really good about that. I follow some Cowboy YouTubers, and they were really high on him and everything. And I mean, I liked what I saw from him in the preseason as well. But you have one guy go down, and now it's like, well, do we keep Tyler Smith at guard where he's been doing well, or do we kick him out to left tackle and maybe he struggles? Who do we have if we don't, stuff like that. So, as far as that goes, one piece can really ruin it, which we'll talk about the guys that we did sign and get off waivers, because I really think that adds a little bit of stability at the offensive line that we haven't had in a long time.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right.
it might not be
Well,
the
go
best
ahead.
offensive line.
Well, go ahead, Noah. Go ahead. It's all you. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So we have the rest of the list here. Quentin Bell made the team. Jared Bernhardt made the team. We had Timmy Horn. We have
That
Will
was
Darby came
surprising
back
for me.
from,
I did not expect him to make the team, but
and then obviously Demi Williams too. So
Jarvis was correct about that though. He was on point. So
yeah, but yeah,
Oh,
ultimately, uh, way more accurate than most people can come up with. So
yeah. I mean, I worked really hard on that list, but of course, I always preface that I knew I wasn't going to get it 100% because there's too many variables, man, and to get it 100%. If someone gets it 100% right, you need to that guy needs to be on some NFL staff somewhere. But yeah, so
yeah, yeah. Bubba Gum was talking about Tampa Bay. You want to talk about a team that's down bad, offensive line wise?
That's what
yeah,
I
I
wanted
mean,
to. That's what I kind of want to harp on. Do y'all think the talent of the O line is just that trash, or is the D line talent in the league just ridiculous? Because I'm leaning towards the D line is just ridiculous in the
it
league.
could be
I'm
a mix
leaning
of
towards the O
both.
line. I think it's a mix of both, maybe, but the O line, it's bad. But the thing is, O line, D line, it's technical for sure,
hmm
but it's not as technical as offensive
Exactly.
line. Offensive line. Here's the thing, you have to have five guys that not they don't have to necessarily be like all pros or anything like that, but they have
hmm
to work together. They have to work in unison. They have to be you're only as strong as your weakest link when it comes to the
hmm
offensive line. So
Mhm.
um, with defensive line, you can have a guy like Grady Jarrett who don't have anybody around him, but he can still he's obviously not as good as he would be if he had guys with him,
hmm
but he still you still see that he's getting pressure and things like that because he's just good. Whereas with offensive line, you can't really do that. I mean, look at how as bad as Hennessy played last year. Our offensive line couldn't do anything because he was getting pushed so far in the backfield on most plays that they couldn't do anything about it. So I mean, I think that's kind of why the offensive line issues are the way they are. Just
Yeah,
and
I kind of think it's
I
a bit
think
of
you
both
make.
because
Mhm.
you have rules that kind of mitigate the ability of most offensive linemen. You have a lot of holding calls, a lot of hands to the face, a lot of all those other technical stuff that.
clipping.
So because clipping, you have like cut blocks and all that kind of stuff. It's like there's a lot of things that look bad, and there's a lot of things that really limit what the offensive lineman can do as far as like
hmm
how to grab and how to reach and how to kind of pull their guys without looking like the defensive lineman is going to flop and call for a holding that way. And then the same for pass protection. There's only so many spots that you can like target. And then with the defensive line, like there's a lot more pass rushers that know how to manipulate the limitations of the
hmm
offensive line to the point where, hey, I know you can't touch me here, so I'm going to, attack
Give
you in that
you
area and in your
hmm
same spot. And I know that you can't do anything about it because if you tried, then that's holding. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it only limits what the defensive lineman can do once they start getting to the quarterback. When they start, they get too low and they start touching the lower half of the quarterback's body, and then they get the flag for roughing the passer that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think there's a mixture of both, and also, I think that certain coordinators should do a better job of making sure that the pass gets out of the quarterback's hands
Yes.
In time.
faster
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
and
here's
more.
I'd
My
like to. Sorry to interrupt or anything, but I'd like to add this. So a lot of people don't understand this, but offensive line is probably the most skilled position on a football team. It's very
Well,
underrated.
no,
Like
I
people,
mean, well,
um,
you just push people around, right?
yeah, no. Listen, so and I'm hoping to start my channel and kind of do some film breakdowns to kind of like illustrate my point. But footwork, the
hand usage.
hand usage, key monstrous. Like being able to drop your butt and anchor. Like there is so much stuff in offensive line that if you don't do it, you're gonna struggle. Like
Just like center of
leverage, yeah,
balance, the center
yeah.
of gravity.
And here's the thing: most these offensive line coaches, a lot of them aren't that good at coaching it. I'm just gonna say, like, I'm not saying, like, obviously they're better than me, probably, but
Let's hope so.
yeah, I would hope so. That's their job to be better than me, but some of them probably aren't. But because a lot of these guys aren't getting coached, and even if they are getting coached right, it's very hard to do that in a game situation. Like you have to work at that technique tirelessly, and a lot of these guys haven't had to because they went to high school and their offensive line coach probably didn't teach them technique because they're freaking 6'6" and 315 pounds
And that's
Mhm.
literally what I
at
was going to get to.
Yep.
I was
16
gonna
years
get
old, pushing these
Yep.
guys around. And
Yep.
in high school, you can get away with that.
That was
Because,
all athleticism. It was
And
all
even on
athleticism.
defense.
It was never technique. It was all
Yeah,
athleticism. It was
right.
never technique.
exactly.
It
So
was
a lot of these
never
guys,
technique.
right.
And
So a
that
lot of these guys,
translates
oh, go ahead. Sorry, Jay.
and that translates to the defense for me because if you look at the defensive side of the ball, you can be the most big, athletic, explosive player and be more productive on defense
Mhm.
than offense because that won't matter on offense. Like you can be the most explosive, big, strong person, but if you don't have the fundamental and the technique, you still can be useless on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
Like, put it this
And
way: I'm pretty sure Chris Lindstrom is like 6'3", 307,
Mm-hmm.
and yet no one has a problem with his weight because
yeah,
he's just phenomenal with his technique.
Mm-hmm.
right. Yeah, and here's the thing. So to the point, these kids like are monstrous in high school. So really, they don't really start getting coached about technique probably until college. And so you're talking about that's 3 to 4 years, and then they're in the league from there.
Yeah.
So I mean, whereas
And then
like
they can make the jump early.
see, like, and you don't have that with like running backs and receivers and things like that because okay, you have a guy that's tall and runs fast. There's plenty of kids that are tall and run fast in high school, right? They're
Yep.
tall, slender, and can run fast. But what separates receivers in high school is their technique, like route running and being able to, obviously it's not going to be NFL level most of the time, but they have to work on their technique more because there are more guys that are closer to their athletic ability. Whereas when you're when you're 6'6", 350 15 pounds, there's not many kids in college that match you at all, like period. I played defensive line in high school, all through high school, and I played offensive line as well. I'm 5'11", like I was like 230,
Mm-hmm.
and I was pretty big for kids my age, So, but if I went up against a guy that's 6'6", 350 pounds, there was nothing I could do with that. There's nothing I could do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest thing for me. That's why I think offensive line is so trash because they just don't have the development that other positions have.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, let's.
And I think you made a fair point, Noah. Get the ball out the quarterback. Like these 5-step,
Exactly.
7-step drops, these long developing routes, like you're gonna get your
Mhm.
quarterback killed. Like You got to mix it up. You can't. That's the
Yeah,
key.
Dirk Cutter, we're
Dirk
looking at
Cutter,
you,
bro.
buddy.
Former Fred.
All
Uh,
right, all right, Rip. Talking about your cuts when it came down to uh, Bernhardt, Allison, and Huntley. You chose to cut Bernhardt. Okay, that in
yeah,
hindsight
no,
did not age well. Uh,
yeah. Hey, man.
round two, you cut Marla Davidson out of the choices between him, Demir Bird, and Avery Williams. Yeah, everyone kind of knew that Avery was going to make the team, but I mean they all kind of did. So can't really talk about that one. Timmy Horn, Derek Tangelo, and then Abdullah Anderson. Well, I mean they're all kind of sticking around here too.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Ford, Corey Ballantine, and then D. Alford. Yeah, D. Alford was obvious, but then Mike Ford, it was more towards Ballantine getting the chopping block, whereas Mike Ford's still on the team. Nick Kwiatkowski, now he's still here with us only because of the manipulation purposes. Dean Marlowe, Nick Thurman. I don't even think Nick Thurman made the team.
Yeah, I don't think he's back either. I think he's pretty much a gunner.
So yeah,
Yeah.
those two people stayed. Then we had Jonathan Harrison, Tyler Vrabel, and then Jalen Mayfield. People kind of knew that Mayfield was going to stay here, but between Vrabel and Harrison, most people kind of saw that Harrison was not
Is
going to make the
Babel
team.
on the practice squad? I
He
haven't
is.
seen his name. Okay.
Okay. And then Parker Hess, Anthony Ferkser, Felipe Franks. Felipe Franks made the team. Ferkser and Hess. I think Ferkser did, right?
Nope,
Ferguson made the practice
he's on the
squad.
practice squad.
Practice squad. Okay. Hess.
He
Yeah,
made the
and
team.
here's the thing with the thing with this game though is I would have put that because obviously you saw my 53 man that was submitted before we did the stream. I had him on the roster. It was just we had to choose between Felipe, Anthony Ferkser, and Parker Hesse, which Ferkser got cut, but that was a shock. Like the fact that
I think it was more for injury. I think it was more due to injury because he's hurt right now. I guarantee you by week one, I think Ferguson will be on the actual 53-man roster.
Yeah, that's the
Very possible.
universal consensus on social media. A lot of people think first is gonna be on the week one roster.
Mhm.
So then we had Keyshawn Johnson, Frank Darby, and Cameron Batson. Uh, Keyshawn, I don't think made the team, but Frank Darby made the squad. Cameron Batson, I think,
No,
might be
Darby
hopping
made the
around
practice.
too.
Yeah, he made the practice squad, didn't he?
Yeah,
So I
Darby
think
and Batson on the
so. I
PS.
think so. I think I was right, other than the fact that that Batson got cut, but both Batson and Keyshawn got cut. So
Yeah. Then we had Eric Harris, Tease Tabor, Darren Hall. This one was just kind of wild. I think all of them made it, so
yeah,
just
Well,
barely
T's
Tease.
on the practice squad
give me a second. Yeah.
53.
And then we had the last round between Tucker Fisk, John Fitzpatrick, and then Michael Pruitt. Patrick
Tucker
is
on the
still
practice squad. All them
around,
on the
so
practice squad are on IR.
yeah, it was.
Well, it looked
I
like
mean,
I
a lot
was
of the
right.
stuff that we had.
He's obviously long gone.
Yeah, because you had to cut Allison, Valentine, Harris, Taylor Fisk. Yep, looking like that one. So I said Huntley. Obviously, I kind of wanted to keep all of them. Allison was a bit of a surprise. I mean, Alex, he's not here, but Alex is right about that one. Bird made the main roster. Horn kind of did. Valentine, okay, for sure. I mean, like all these names, they were really on the brink, and most of them we found a way to keep back, anyways.
Yeah, it goes to show
So it's
you
not
too.
like,
Like we had a
unfortunately, none
deep.
of us were like wronger than the other.
Yeah, yeah. So here's the thing. Like we had this is a good problem to have because we had such a good roster. Like throughout the camp that there were those tough decisions, man. Like there were so many players that could have theoretically made the team that we just had to make tough decisions on, you know. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, everybody's going to value things differently. So that's what makes this so hard. But you know, uh, you guys want to actually get into like the actual 53 and how
But
things
before
went?
we do that, there's going to be this article that you shared with me about how we even got to this stage. And that was this thing right here. How did the new NFL injured reserve rules work, right? This was made back on September 30th, 2021. This was kind of more like a Boston kind of news article. So don't fret if you see a bunch of Patriot stuff and whatnot. But it's just mostly about, how the rules are, how the rules are structured. I would, kind of tune into the Falcons version of this, but I don't think they were smart enough to
You
make
might want
one.
to zoom in a
Anyways,
little bit, Joe, on
week
that if you can.
week 4 is a big one for the injured players in the National Football League because it's the first week that many of them are eligible to return under the new NFL injured reserve rules. The 2020 season and the unprecedented circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic essentially forced the league to modify the way teams stashed injured players. After years of injured reserve typically ending its player season, the NFL changed the rules to allow teams to place teams on to place players most likely on IR for just 3 weeks. So when you see guys like Isaiah Oliver, Deion Jones, if you see him on the practice or if you see him on the IR, don't fret. You can take him right back off, and that allows more competition for the other people that are kind of on the brink of returning to the roster. So that's what that mostly means there. That's for the major change to 2019. The last time players had to sit out a minimum of 8 weeks if placed on IR after being named 53-man roster. The Patriots had to do that for N'Keal Harry for their rookie season. Who cares about that? He's not even on your team anymore. Fast forward to 2021, and Harry once again had to start the season on IR. But thanks to the new rules across the NFL, he was able to return on practice Wednesday ahead of the Week 4 game. Too bad he did nothing for your team. Let's move on. As a procedural move, players who ended up in the short-term injured reserve need to be named to the 53-man roster. That case was with Harry for the Patriots. Can you shut up about N'Keal Harry? Other notable receivers that went through the same process included T.Y. Hilton, Rashad Bateman, and Giants' John Ross.
So
All right,
can
then.
I summarize this? Can I just summarize this for us? So basically, what happened and why I was saying this is roster manipulation. So uh, first off, I want to say like any player that has been in the league for 4 years or more is it, right or more. Is it more than 4 years? Anyways, if they've been in the league for at least 4 years, they're not eligible for waiver wire, so they're immediately sent to free agency, right?
Right.
So what a lot of these teams are doing is they are telling these veteran guys like Abdullah Anderson is they're like, hey, what we're gonna do is we're gonna release you. Then when this IR thing happens, we're gonna be moving some guys to IR, and then we're gonna sign you back. So they don't they have a deal in place before this happens to bring him back. So like we saw today, we had 5 guys go to IR. They're only out for 3 weeks with going to IR. So what that does is you can bring back 5 guys, and it might not be your bottom 5 guys. It's just guys that you can kind of control them not getting claimed off waivers. They didn't want
Just like I
Anderson.
said, just kind of stash him away for a little bit.
Yes. And so now we basically have 5 extra people on the roster, and we have 3 weeks to evaluate our entire roster more with game reps. And you give guys like Oliver, Deion Jones, that are nursing injuries, extra time to. They're healthy. Obviously, they played in the preseason. They're healthy enough to play, but you're able to give them a little bit more time to rehab, a little bit more, get acclimated with the team because they missed a lot of camp because they were rehabbing these injuries. So you get 3 extra weeks of that plus extra evaluation for the guys at the bottom half of your roster. So
Yeah,
I think
but
it's a tremendous rule.
Yeah, but something here to keep in mind: any player who is placed on injured reserve during camp or the preseason before final roster cutdowns have to stay there for the entire season. That mostly applies for Vincent Taylor, I'd say,
Mhm.
because I think he was the only person that we officially put on IR
Yeah.
due to his injury. It talks about what about the pup list? Players who started the season on the physically unable to perform list have to sit a minimum of 6 weeks. That was the case for Stephon
Deion
Gilmore,
Jones.
Michael Thomas, David Bakhtiari, Leon
So
Jones.
Deion Jones stayed on the pup list first, so he'll have 6 weeks. But hey, like like you said, it doesn't really matter the time frame because I feel like we can make do with the depth on this roster without those guys for a couple of games.
Yeah, especially when we're having to sign back a lot of these linebackers specifically. Like
Right.
the addition of Kwiatkowski.
Not to say that Deion Jones being out, it's not going to hurt, but it's not all. It's not the end of the world with the roster that we have.
Man, I'm not sure he playing again, man. I'm gonna be honest with y'all.
When I see him on the field on the last preseason game with him and versus the Jaguars, being in the service, you kind of read lips pretty good. Not just because you're in the service, but it's something I picked up on since I've been in. So Arthur Smith walks out on the field and goes, Dion,
Yeah, I
Dion,
seen that.
what the
What the
f-
fuck
are
you
you
doing?
doing?
Yeah, I seen it. I seen that too.
So,
Okay,
that
Coleman has a question. See here. Say you bring a guy from the practice squad because you put a guy on IR. When the guy on IR returns, can you put the practice squad player back on the practice squad, or do you have to cut, waive, or release someone else?
You have to
so
cut
if
him, and he has to go through waivers again because you still have the
not
Unless
waiver
he
wire.
got
so
unless he
if he
was
yes,
better.
if he's if he's a 4 year or more veteran, he can just get cut and go right to the practice squad. If he has the first four or less,
Right.
or less than 4 years, he has to go through waivers again.
Yeah. So it really depends on who they view. Because
Drop.
when you're talking about the 53 man, the initial 53, they were cutting veterans more than the younger guys because they didn't want to chance it with waivers. But
Yeah.
now, when you're in the regular season, you're going to be cutting guys that are actually at the bottom of the roster, like guys that you feel, for whatever reason, maybe the position room is too full, or what the case may be, performance or whatever. The guys that get cut now are going to be guys that are really at the bottom of the pecking order. So.
Right, and then
I got a
last
question though. If we put somebody on IR, right, and it's 4 weeks, it's 4 weeks, correct, that they can come off.
3
Yeah.
weeks.
They
So
can
they
stay longer though, right? Like we don't
Yeah.
have,
yes,
it don't have to be
exactly,
4
yeah. Yes, yeah. Yeah, they can come back by week, the practice of week 4. So it's really a 3-week thing, but they can stay longer. Obviously, with the Deion Jones thing, I didn't read that far down, but it seems like he'll have to be out for 6 weeks or come back probably the week 6.
That was almost as long as the Deshaun Watson initial suspension, but go on.
You petty as hell. You petty as hell, bro. That's some petty stuff right there,
Yeah, I
man.
guess Deshaun's they wanted him to be put
That's a
on the
petty. Somebody already said it.
Yep.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but I really like this rule, and I like that you have 16 practice squad guys now. Because like I said, when it was 6, it was almost like useless. Because you have like 6 guys, but like now you can have pretty much every position covered. You can have so. Like it's so much better than the 6-man because 6-man like it just seemed like there was hardly anybody. There was more people in free agency, and you might have a guy on a practice squad, but like say you have a running back, quarterback, receiver, 2
Tight
offensive
end.
linemen, and a defensive end, but then your wide receiver get another position, your safety goes down. Like you don't have someone on your practice squad to cover that.
So, hey, gentlemen, so while we on here, I probably it's a question that probably people want to ask, but they don't want to sound dumb. So I asked a dumb question myself. So the question is, that came to me about a month or so ago. Why don't they just activate all 53 personnel on the roster, on the 53-man roster, um, with the expansion of the practice squad? And one of the things that I had to read up on was, uh, they can't do that because of course the salary, after your 51 man or whatever it can be, they don't count that salary. If you
Mhm.
activate all 53 personnel, then you have to incorporate it into salary, which can affect your what they call it, your cap.
Yeah, yeah,
Your
yeah.
cap. So I always want to know that myself. Um, as far as why they don't activate all 53, only 46 is activated on game day and
Mhm.
not 53. But what do y'all take on that? Do y'all agree that the 53 man, all
I can
53?
see. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, because the way it is the top your top 51 players is based off of their salary cap hit. So the bottom two salary cap hits don't count toward your salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
Or your,
You know what? That's interesting because, like, obviously we've seen Deion Jones play in the preseason game. We've seen Isaiah Oliver play in the preseason
Exactly.
game,
Mm-hmm.
and consistently at camp too, and they've both looked good. With Dion, he's got the biggest cap hit
Mm-hmm.
on the team, and I'm wondering if they're using that as a means to kind of hide that.
well,
Mm.
too. So with IR, his salary cap doesn't like his cap hit does not while he's on IR doesn't count towards our salary. That's the whole point of IR. So if you got someone on IR, their salary does not is not taken into account. So you actually have more money to go out and get free agency. So that is a cap manipulation move as well.
The thing
So
Until he
about
plays,
that is
until he
though,
plays the first game, until
right,
he
when
if
he
he
comes
get on the
back,
field.
no, but he
right.
got that roster bonus too, though. That counts
True.
against our cap too. I can't forget about that roster bonus he got
Hmm.
for being on the
Yeah,
roster.
yeah, there are. He's still, but his straight cap hit is what we're
But
talking
yeah,
about. Yeah, because there's
but
different. Yeah, there's a different. They break them down.
the game day checks probably don't count against the cap. His game day checks, but that roster bonus is still going to count, even if he
Yes.
on IR.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not like it frees up a whole. What is his cap hit like?
Nine point six
20
million.
million.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it does free up quite a bit of space because he has his actual his actual salary. So you have salary and bonuses that make up your total cap
Yeah,
hit.
because his
So his
salary only
salary.
9.5 million. It's just that cap hit 20 million because we backloaded his damn contract.
Right. Yeah. So that 20 million still, or whatever, or not. Well, it would be what 11 million that actually is still counted. Not that 9 million that's his
Yeah,
salary
something like that.
was
Yeah.
not counted until he gets reactivated.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. Yeah. Yep. So it's like
So it's a little
11 million
confusing.
that counts. Hmm.
But it just makes all these other moves seem more impressive and more smarter on behalf of Terry Fontenot.
Yeah, because I
True.
mean, you
Like
get
he's
more
reading
bang for
that
your
fine
buck.
print and it's like, hey, that means that I can,
Hey, man,
put
take
my
out.
most expensive guy here, put him on IR, let him rest up that shoulder for like a couple extra weeks, get the
And if
other
he's
team
not getting
acclimated in here.
the playbook where he's struggling, because that was my, and Mad Mike's probably gonna get mad if he hears this, but like Deion Jones struggled with Dean P's system last year.
Of
You
course.
could see it. He would be out of position a lot of times, and that was his biggest issue. And I completely get it because guess what? Dan Quinn's system was like nothing. Like it, cover three shell, like fast and physical. Blah, 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 blah. He didn't
Well,
have.
Yeah, it
I'm
was
gonna say
still
this
and
real quick
kill.
because
He
I
had
think
to
that
fill no holes.
we talk about how that scheme was, right? It wasn't just for him that would have been the only thing difficult. He was just one of the few that they really couldn't hide. Like they tried to
Mm,
hide Duchy Grant for the entire season because of how complicated that system is. It's the same system that he's working under, right? You'd have to learn that, and on top of that, you have a new position, and on top of that, oh, you have a bummed out shoulder that hasn't
Yeah,
been
he was in a new
working with you
position
for a
too.
while. So, yeah, a lot of things are going to come in and out of
yeah,
your
it's
head a
not
little bit
a.
as you kind of learn everything. I'm not saying that he's not, like he can't, like he's not smart enough in order to pick it up, but it's just a matter of, yeah, he's got a lot more
None
things
of
going
us could
on
pick that
for
up
him.
in one off season. No, nobody in the like. I think I'm pretty intelligent, but like that scheme is it's beyond, and it's not just knowing the scheme; it's being able to react to things naturally, and not like, because if you're thinking as a linebacker, you're already losing half the battle. Like, it's what you need to be able to do is work off instinct. And
Yeah.
the
Yeah, and
only
that's
way,
what I said earlier when having to compare Troy Anderson to what Foye was for us, because Foye, he got a lot of tackles, but he was a chaser. He wasn't the guy that was going to
Mm-hmm.
react right away
Same with
to
DJ.
stop the play
Mhm.
on
Mm-hmm.
tier. Yeah, Deion Jones was
Mhm.
the same way. It's like
Yep.
they both had to learn at the same time each other's positions in order to benefit any portion of our defense, because not like anyone else up in front of them was going to be much of help to him outside of Grady.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had to be the one that had to react and chase to it, and they didn't have the ability, with the people in front of him in order to kind of go out there and predict where the play was going to go, and
Yeah.
so that, hey, even if I don't get there or if I guess wrong, I know that the rest of my teammates are going to, pick up my slack. They didn't have
But
that luxury.
Facts.
right?
what
And oh, sorry, go ahead, Jarvis.
no, I'm sorry, that's on me. So, but also looking at it from this point of view, being stashed on that injury reserve for those six weeks because he was on the PUP list starting out, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a way that if they can knock some of that money down, not talking about the entire thing, but knock some of the money down after 6 weeks. That means you're only paying him the rest, what, the remaining 12 weeks or
11
whatever of
games
the
or something.
season,
Yeah.
11 games. That means a team can go, you know what? Now that his salary cap has fallen because he didn't play the rest of those couple of weeks, we can go ahead and trade for him. Let's give him a 5th round draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to get traded. I really don't.
But
I
I'm
wouldn't
saying
be
in the
surprised.
instance, if
Right.
that was the case, yeah.
He definitely, uh, could be. I'm not putting that past it, but um, uh, talking about going back to the defense and talking about Dion, not getting things. That's one of the reasons I expect this defense to take kind of a bigger leap this year. I'm not saying that we're going to be like incredible or anything like that, but you saw it in the preseason. Like these players are playing more aggressive, and it seems like they're understanding their roles better than we saw last year. They're not as out of place. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but that with this system with Dean Pease, every year that he's with us, this defense is going to get better by leaps every year because his system is so complex that he's bringing these guys along. And once they get it all down, and that's why he even talked about this in an interview, like the reason his Ravens defenses and his New England defenses were the way they work because he constantly had the same players year after year that knew the system, that he could bring along his young guys slower. And so by the time they actually saw the field, like they were at the
Where they
level
was
that
going.
yeah, exactly. So I really expect a bigger leap. And you saw that in Tennessee when he was at Tennessee. Their defense wasn't so good the first year. The second year, they took a massive leap forward.
Yeah, they
And
were
then,
ranked third.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
But
he go ahead.
but Rip, look at the picture that you got right there. That's for your picture on your screen right there. They play hard because they don't want to have to go back to that sideline and hear that man mouth.
I know, dude. He gives the looks to kill, man. He's got the looks to kill, bro. He can stare daggers
But
through you.
but it's good to know that, because when you get those veterans, right, the Eric Harrises, the Deion Jones, the
Hmm.
Grady Jarrett's, the AJ Terrells, when they understand, and you get them from different phases of your defense, right? So you have a safety that knows, you have a corner that knows, you have a linebacker that knows, you have a defensive lineman that knows each portion of that system. Now it makes the process to teach these younger players even faster than before, and now more people know it, and now the rotation can kind of swing so that more people can get acclimated to the system, learn it faster, and therefore be better players because of that.
Hmm.
So unless if we get the next linebacker to be on the same level mentally as Deion Jones, I don't see him really leaving until we get someone else, whether that be like a Rashawn Evans or something,
Yeah, that's what
and
I
then to
think gonna
have
step
him
up in that
just kind
role.
of outperform whatever they can do.
And,
So, but even then, like Rashawn Evans has his limitations.
yes.
He's
Exactly.
not good. He's not good at coverage. He's not
I
good at
No.
believe
coverage.
I believe Dion has a role on his team. Don't get me twisted. As much as I
Yeah.
harp on his run stopping ability and certain things that I seen him not wanting to take on blocks and not wanting to tackle nobody. He's still formidable, very formidable in coverage,
Mm-hmm.
and he can
And he can
definitely cover
blitz.
those running back. He can blitz. He can cover them running backs and certain tight ends. So I think he
Mm-hmm.
could definitely be a situational backer.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 million is kind of steep for that, but his salary really 9 million. That's not this regime fault
And, well,
that his salary cap that cap hit is that.
well,
So that
and
has
he,
nothing to do with Terry. Go
and
ahead though.
salary cap, yeah, at this point, salary cap doesn't matter that much. I mean, other
Mm-hmm.
than if you have injuries, you need to sign people. But at this point, the roster is what it is, and it's under the cap. So we don't have to
Exactly.
really worry about what a player is getting played with. It's what can he contribute to this team. And
Exactly.
what I see when Dion comes back, what I see him doing is not being in a lot on like rundowns. I think that's going to be
Exactly.
Rashawn Evans. And see, Rashawn Evans is ahead of the curve because he was coached under Dean Pease his
Mhm.
first couple of years in Tennessee.
Yep.
So he's going to be ahead of the curve a little bit than some of our other guys. So
Mhm.
But
he's
Rip,
going
you
to.
can't put that on tape though, Rip. You can't put that on. You cannot put that on tape, Rip. Let me tell you why you can't put it on tape. Because if you put Deion Jones only being in there for passing downs alone, teams will pick up on that.
Yeah,
And when
no, no,
teams pick up on that,
But
yeah.
if
I'm
it's
not
an
saying he
obvious
won't put it.
pass
Yeah,
situation, what you gonna do? You gonna run it
right.
on 3rd and 12?
Yeah, I'm not saying. Yeah, no, no, no.
Okay,
I'm not
go ahead.
saying. No, I'm not saying that they're gonna. He's not ever gonna be on rundowns. But I'm saying
hmm
like situationally, he's going to.
Exactly.
And if
okay,
he is in on rundowns, he's gonna be playing like weak side linebacker.
Exactly.
hmm
So he can take
He can
advantage of
slow to the
being free.
ball
Because
better and
what you
don't
want
have
to do is keep blockers off of him. Because if he's
exactly.
hmm
able to run free,
It-
he's a menace to society.
he is,
Exactly. Yep.
he is.
Um, so that's what I see. And so with the linebackers that we have, what's really good about them, even like on the way down to like Nate Landman and Kwiatkowski, which
hmm
I think they're going to be more special teams guys. But every one of our linebackers kind of brings something different, which
Yep. I
we don't
noticed
haven't.
that.
Because with I don't know what it was with Dan Quinn, other than he was just trying to build Seattle's defense, but he drafted linebackers that basically did the same things. Maybe they had a little variation, but like how much difference is Devondre Campbell to Deion Jones or
How
Riley
much
or Duke
difference?
Yeah,
Riley?
Riley and
Oh
Dion were
God.
pretty similar. Even
Yeah,
though the production
or
wasn't, but
even
the
even Olakun,
style and
even
the
Olakun. You
Yep.
Yeah,
know,
Foye and Michael
Fourier
Walker.
too. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
I
a good
mean,
point. That's a fair point.
hmm
so now we have a mixture of guys that can do, because I mean, Rashawn Evans, dude. I mean, coverage, he's a little bit of a liability, but he'll come downhill and smack you though, and we haven't had that.
Let's see.
He's not afraid to take in, deal with traffic, things
Yeah.
like this. So
What I see from that linebacker core, I'm gonna be honest. Like with Lamont and Anderson, I can see them two really filling that role in a year or two, to where we got that run stopping
hmm
linebacker in Lamont, and then we got the cover linebacker in Anderson, where they both. I can
hmm
potentially see that actually developing. I'm not giving up on Mekhi Walker by any means necessary. I like
Yeah.
Walker,
and
but
Walker's great in
I see
coverage.
why Lamont is on the roster. I can
Yeah.
see why he's on the roster.
Walker's great in coverage, and he's also good coming off the line. Like if you want to blitz him in certain situations, and Deion Jones, that was one of the things that really got me excited about Deion Jones with Dean Pease, because you saw that last year at Dan Quinn when Morris started blitzing the linebackers more.
hmm hmm
Like you saw Deion, like sometimes he would just find that hole and just hit it, and I mean he'd kill the dude. Like
He will.
See,
He
my
will.
And
thing
he was
with
one of the only few linebackers in the league that had the speed to get there too, to
He
capitalize
did.
on that.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
So, like I said, I really I think our defense is going to take a huge step forward. Now, what does that equate to our record and things like that? I don't know, but I think that we're going to see a different defense than we've seen in a long time from Atlanta.
So
my
with
only
that being
issue with.
said,
Go ahead. No, my bad.
I'm just gonna close out the show. If you had any final thoughts, I was gonna kind of share it around.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, we're gonna pass it off around. If you want to start first, go ahead.
I was just gonna say on Mekhi Walker, my thing with him is I like him as far as his ability. He has a lot of ability. I think he's too coachable at times and doesn't use his instincts at times. Like I would rather him trust his instincts a little more. I know any coach will probably tell you it's not a such thing as being too coachable, but I disagree as a former player. Like, I believe sometimes you just have to use your instincts and trust your eyes and trust what you're seeing. But that's my only issue with Walker. Like, I just want him to trust himself a little more out there. I agree with you with the defense. I definitely think the defense can be top 15 this year, top half of the league. So I say top 16. I do think that's very possible. And I'm ready for the Saints, man. Week 1, rise up. I'm at the game. My ticket secured, so let's go.
Sharp.
Hey, so thank you again for everybody for joining the show. Thank you again, Noah, Jay, and Rip for having me on the show as well.
Sure.
As always, we get around each other, start talking. We start talking about football. Great conversations. One of the things I want to leave here with is just know that this season, when it comes up, there will not be a whole lot of joking around. As you see on the sideline in preseason,
Mm-mm.
you don't see a whole lot of laughing. You don't see a whole lot of playing. You see a whole lot of players stand up on the sideline giving pointers to
Business.
other players. It's all business, and so be advised that this year you're gonna see a lot more seriousness in the football game and people being very prepared.
Mm. Yeah. My closing thoughts. I want to thank everybody that was on the show and everybody that's viewing the show. I hope that through our rambling, we got some points across here. But yeah, like what the main thing is, this team. I like the direction it's going in. Um, from every position group, like this is the best off season I think I've ever seen from a Falcons team.
Hmm.
Like,
That's saying a lot.
yeah, and I mean, yeah. So I mean, and I've been here since the Vic era. I mean, I was a little too young to remember. I was like 4 years old when we went to the Super Bowl, so I don't remember that. But during the Vic years and stuff, I started watching. So I've seen a lot of off seasons, and this was by far the best. It was this was the hardest time, like because I've went through the roster and I can kind of like for the most part predict what's going to happen. Like there was so many variables to this off season with especially at the bottom half of that roster. Like we have some guys that are at the bottom of our roster that can really play this year. So we should be excited about that. Not saying we're a perfect team or a built team yet or anything, but for the future and moving forward, like this team is going to get there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
My
agree.
final thoughts. I have my own solo edition of the What If series that I'm going to be doing Monday for Labor Day. I'm not choosing it because it's Labor Day. I'm choosing it's because it was the very first stream that I did a year ago.
All right.
So just to see the progression of how everything was, and the what if question was, well, when have I never submitted my application to be an AFN member? So stick
Boy,
around
don't we live
for
in a world
that.
of what ifs?
Man,
What
I'm
if?
so glad you did because like you said, I think this platform has a potential to grow, especially with Mad Mike and things like in that whole ANF people. I got tongue twisted, but yeah, like
Atlanta Nation Falcons.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I can't talk right now, but as far as that goes, I think that we have something that is really special being built. Whether people, it gets viewed by 40 people or 40, 4K, 4,000 people. I don't care. I think it's a very, very constructive platform.
Roger.
So yeah, that's gonna be this show. Tune into the Dirty Bird Thursdays crew because they're pulling on right now,
Okay.
and I'm gonna be over there kind of support them. I might even sneak in as a guest appearance in them as well. So,
Okay.
all right, well that's gonna be the show. So, see you guys next time.
8 times stomp, baby. All
See ya.
right.